So I hope that gave you a chance to become present. And now I'd like you to just settle into thinking about your situation in relation to being here, the reason that you're here, and the group that you may be involved in. Regardless of what your situation is, you may hold a formal leader position, or you may be part of a group that you hope to have an impact in. So just calling to mind your group and thinking, how would I like to show up as a leader? What sort of leader would I like to be? And what do I hope this course is going to do for me? Possibly at the end of the course, how will I be different? How will I behave and communicate differently? How will I relate to people differently? So we'll be doing some more. And now I'll just give you a few minutes to settle in and just reflect on those. And shortly I'll hand over to Stephen. He'll set us up for a breakout where you can meet someone and also share your own aspirations for this course. I'm sure we've all had leaders who we have admired, or we may have self-awareness, how we want to, the sort of leader we want to be. So I will now hand over, later on we'll be doing the introductions to facilitators and the course, but for now we're just going to first up meet someone else in the course. I'll hand over to Stephen to set us up in pairs. Thank you, Stephen. Is there anything you want to add at this point or send us away into breakout?
Thanks, Pip. Yeah, my name is Stephen. Really glad to be with you. I'm the co-facilitator along with Pip. And to set up this breakout room, I want you to think about what your main goal in this course is. And then I'm going to put you into breakout rooms just for 5 or 7 minutes and give you a chance to introduce yourself to your fellow classmates and to share your main goals with each other. Is that clear to everyone? Are there any questions before we jump into that breakout room? Okay, so I'm going to send you along there and we'll see you back in about 7 minutes. There we go. So now we have about 5 minutes. I'd like you to share what you learned about your fellow classmates. What was their main goal in coming to this course? Anyone can start. You can all jump in, or if you feel like sharing in the chat instead of talking, that's up to you as well.
Sorry,
Well-
I'll jump in and share Alvaro. He has an amazing question. I said, I want to hear what sense you make of this as you go through the course. Because he works in AI policy, his question is like, well, what is the role of being human in this time of AI? You know, so I think that's a great one. Thank you. I'll pass to, I don't know, someone else.
I was with
Lauren and I got off topic, and so it's hard for me to think back to what Lauren said. But I believe it's working with kids, with young people with issues, and working in that area and seeing what can come out of this sort of work. Sorry, Lauren, if I
No,
really got the point.
that's kind of spot on. And we kind of were talking about, you know, like we don't like, I don't know, I kind of came with a feeling. I'm like, there's a lot of apathy in my community right now, and it's really hard for me to grapple with. And Helen was sharing a lot of her background in terms of like complexity science, and we got off track, but it was great.
Yep.
I liked in our group, Anissa and Sudha and I have similar desires for this project here, which is we want to practice strategies for not falling into a hierarchical kind of leadership. And we were noting that that's kind of our default, you know, when you're in front of the room and you're supposed to be the leader. For me anyway, I won't speak for them, but I get bossy, and my default is just to tell people what to do because I generally know better than anyone in the room what to do, and blah blah blah, right? And I'm really trying to develop some different skills. I want different default. I want a different default perspective on leadership, which would be more inspiring, you know, inspiring engagement. I want to inspire engagement with the other people in the room.
Great, thanks, Gigi. Anybody else want to share?
I was with Asta, and we got a little bit sidetracked, but like a commonality we had is that we both we kind of want to learn the skills now and the pro-social way now, and there's kind of a long-term vision of a personal community that we might start in the long term.
Okay. Beautiful and inspiring, thank you. Anybody else want to jump in? No? Okay, so thanks for sharing, everyone. And I'd like now to pass over to Pip.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
It just muted itself. I don't know why. Sorry. Yeah. So now we're at the part of the course that sometimes comes at the beginning, where we tell you a bit more about the course and a bit more about us as facilitators. So this course, Becoming Prosocial, it is, I'll show you a little schematic in a minute, but basically it begins with us as individuals, as all groups do, and then us in groups and how groups can operate effectively to possibly even make systemic change. Some people gain hope from doing this course because they feel they have more tools to effect change rather than feeling powerless and overwhelmed at the state of things. So we do hope that this gives you some valuable knowledge and skills. This course, Becoming Prosocial, is the first in a sequence of opportunities for development, and later in the course we'll show you other opportunities, but this is where we begin. So it's structured that you have access to learn worlds that where there is the content. Hopefully most, if not all of you, I hope, I will check in after this, I've had a chance to find it and to look at the videos that are there and some of the articles that are there. And this first session is basically an overview, introduction, get to know each other. And I hope that you do feel excited about being part of this cohort and indeed connecting with each other. It kind of brings me on to the topic of us as facilitators, because speaking for myself, I see myself as truly one of you, as a global citizen trying to do exactly what you're doing. And I got this opportunity to do it in this way at this time, and I've done it in other capacities prior and now. But we're all trying to become either leaders or activists or catalysts for change, is my understanding. I could tell you a bit about myself, I will. So I've been sort of developing with Prosocial for maybe 10 years, and I lived in an intentional community for 5 years and lived and breathed. I had a leadership position in that community, and I did my modest utmost to contribute. Honestly, I have to feel humble about this work, because as it did say in the Learned World's content, being a leader or trying to affect change, it's not all glamour and success, is it? It's got its challenges, you might say. So we'll dive into all that later. But I'm going to hand over to Stephen now to say hi as the other co-facilitator. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Pip. A little bit about myself then. I've been curious about human cooperation ever since I was very, very young. I guess for me, it started looking at ants when I was 3 years old, just watching how ant colonies organize themselves. And I always figured there's some sort of connection between what humans do and ants do. And I eventually became an anthropologist. And I'm fascinated by how we can, the challenges in scaling up cooperation to larger levels. So I've looked at cooperation in all sorts of contexts. I've hung out with villagers in rainforests, and I've worked in large cities as well, done psychological experiments, but there's always fresh questions to puzzle over. So I hope I can share my passion for this field with everyone here. All right, back to you, Pip. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephen. So I hope you got to know at least one other person on the course. And as we go through, there'll be lots more breakouts, because this course is highly interactive. It's based on you learning from each other. We're not set up as fonts of all wisdom. We've given you a source of knowledge and skills. And this is, of course, it's experiential, and we'll be sharing. So I hope that suits you all. I'll just show you the little diagram of where the course goes. So I'm just getting used to a new setup here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this little schematic here shows that we will be covering on this course, exploring what it means to you in your context to be a leader. Now, leader, maybe it's a bit of an overkill in terms of what you might think about of that, but really it's just a behavior that you can practice anytime. So it's your ability to impact, usually using relationships, which is where some of our skill at relating comes in. It's a pretty important part of being a leader. Next week, we'll be looking at communicating with others, which is an important part of influencing, of bringing people with us, and also, of course, sorting out the inevitable, perhaps jarring moments or sometimes conflict that can occur. How do we manage these conversations more skillfully than we do at the moment? Well, that's a pretty important session. Then here, it's related to a little bit what we did on our check-in. Just being aware of our own thoughts and feelings arising and our own reactivity, which all of us have. So we need to manage this stuff here in order to be able to relate to others and indeed to effect change. So that's a bit of a skill, listening to inner at the same time as doing outer. Then we, within a group context, we build a vision, a sense of where we would, as a group, like to go. And that's in terms of like, what needs do we want to meet? What values do we want to embody and live as we're meeting, as we're rising to that vision? And indeed, what are some goals that we might establish together? And to be able to operate effectively as a group, we do need sort of guidelines, and that's where we'll be looking at some adapted prosocial content related to how we can work together effectively. Actually, that'll be establishing our shared vision. Sorry, I've gone on. The core design principles are the guidelines that originally Eleanor Ostrom established for us, and Prosocial World has modified to become more culturally relevant to our context. Then, needless to say, all of this good knowledge is needs to be useful, so we need to do something with it. And it's no better way than to jump in wherever you are, and even in a small way, to begin. Just begin it now, as Goethe said, I think. So that's going to be towards the end of the course. Some of you will dive in because you need this stuff to use straight away. You'll be doing it, like there are activities in Learn Worlds. Maybe some of you for this week have even done that AI exercise where you helped AI to generate a picture of you as a leader. And we do invite you to do these activities. They're good preparation, and they also might help you to move forward with your group. Now, I don't want to overwhelm you, because if you're not at the stage of having a group or not at the stage of doing something, it's okay. You can just treat this course as preparation, as sort of your building a bit of a vision board for yourself of where you'd like to go. So I'll stop that now and just see if there's any burning questions about the course plan there. Any questions? No? Great. That might mean it's clear, which is great. All right. So just looking now.
Oh, Pip, I just want to
Yeah.
flag the comment from Lauren in the chat.
Oh, yeah, great. Thank you for that. Would you like to? I'll go to that. Have a look. Yeah. Oh, that's great, Lauren. Thank you. You enjoyed it. Would you like to? Oh, good. Some people have done it. I don't want to put anyone on the spot and say who's done it, who hasn't, but maybe we could just hear from one or two of you how you found it useful. That'd be great. And then I'll hand back to Stephen. How did you find it useful, Lauren or Gigi or Avi?
I always work better with structure, and I find that like self-management, self-reflection for myself is hard to keep myself on track. So I like the prompts and then queuing and moving it through like in a structured way was really helpful for me. And I like, like I'm reflecting, but then the last part, like it was like, okay, what is one thing? And I like it generated some like it was like me talking to myself, which was kind of weird, but it was reinforcing of like some of my key values, which sometimes can be hard to like separate from myself, like detach. So I liked it.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, it's helpful. Great. Gigi, how did you go with that?
So I use ChatGPT all the time, and but usually for other things, not for personal reflections. And I've talked with another friend for a long time about using it to help with personal reflections. This was the first time I did that, and I also found it helpful because I have thoughts. We all have thoughts in our head, and they're just kind of a mishmash, and journaling seems like, oh God, I don't want to journal. But somehow typing typing responses to these queries, it was absolutely a form of journaling, and it was very easy, and I appreciated the guidance helped me finish my thoughts. I couldn't be lazy. There was a time where I didn't quite answer all the way, and it sort of gently nudged me to finish the reflection, and I needed that nudge. Otherwise, I would have missed that whole part of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And lastly, Avi.
Yeah, really to echo what the first two responses said, the structure was very helpful. And I also found that because the AI was summarizing what I said back, I could do a little bit of free writing, and then it wasn't on me to then go back and pick out the helpful details and edit or delete. It was the helpful summary was right there for me to use right away. And that was really helpful.
Also, the AI was so encouraging. It kept telling me what a great job I was doing and how wonderful my responses were.
That's great. Okay, so dive in if you haven't had a go. It's a bit of fun. If anyone's having trouble accessing LearnWells or anything else, I'll stay on for a minute or two at the end of the course and I'll help you, but I think everyone's sounding like they're getting there. So I think that's about, I know, I just wanted to say a little bit more about the idea of leadership as and shared power. Just very briefly, I've only got a minute, but and it is, the content is there, so I'm not going to attempt to teach this. It's really just saying that what Prosocial World is promoting and believes in is that we have to find a way to move forward effectively in groups, sharing power. I personally have had the experience for the last 5 years of doing this, and it's very rich because we can tap into so much more of human ability by getting everyone involved and contributing. And whilst it's not easy, it's very worthwhile. I might leave it there and hand back to Stephen now. Thank you, Stephen. If you want to add anything or take us forward, that'd be great.
Sure. So to continue our contemplation of leadership now, I'd like each of you to think of somebody that was, in your mind, a great leader. And leader here can be defined in whatever way you want, right? Whatever context you can think of. And then think of somebody that was a very poor leader, in your view. Okay, and please do not use any current political leaders. This class isn't going to be focused on current political debates. Yeah, I know, Uncle Lauren, you just want to jump in there right now, but we're gonna set that aside and just ask you to think of somebody that you know intimately or fairly well, and who was a good leader or a great leader, and somebody who was a terrible leader. And then I want you to think about how effective was this person or were these people in terms of finding ways to share power. Okay. And then the second question is, how effective were they in leading change? All right, so I'll just give you a couple of minutes now. We can you just throw in some names there, some ideas. It can be half-baked, your gut intuitions about people who are better or worse leaders. Could be somebody from your family, could be a friend, or someone in your organization. I see you're all in deep thought now. Okay, would anyone like to offer their ideas? If you don't mind, we have a pretty small group, so I'm gonna reach out to folks to prompt you. And if you feel free to say that you're still thinking, or you wouldn't like to share at this moment, but let's say Asta, do you have anything you want to share with us about your ideas about a leader?
Okay, so I thought about two people. Good leader was someone, I don't know him personally, but a very renowned figure in India and globally, and he recently passed away. That would be Ratan Tata for me. And a terrible leader would be my ex-boss for me. Yes, very like he used to micromanage a lot. And I think when you spoke about power, I think he lacked that trust to share power and to have smarter people under him, which I think is one of the best things the person can actually do, to have smart people under him.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Asta, for sharing that. Alvaro, would you like to share?
Sure. Yeah. I think I have a clear picture of a good leader that I have gotten to work with. Not so much someone poor, although I can think of one person. But of a good leader, really, I really resonate with that. I think it was the Lao Tzu definition of leadership when they were saying that a good leader is someone that where their work is done and the team recognizes their achievements, is the team themselves that feel that they accomplish it. It's not that everyone is in it together in a way. Yeah, I had an old boss that everyone loved her because of that. She seemed to have a very amazing quality at hearing and listening people's advice, and then making it a part of the group, and then pushing that advice to make decisions. There was space to be heard, and there was a lot of space to not just make it about the work, but about the relationship as well. I don't like the figure of I will go to work for that person, but I would definitely would have gone to work for that person, because I mean it was so inspiring. Poor leader, someone that I work in a bureaucracy, so there's a bunch of bureaucrats, and a couple of them are very much about the bureaucracy and very much about uh, the wordsmithing, because that's where their value seems to be in, and micromanaging that minutiae that might lack complete value. There were a couple of people like that, I think. Nobody's super weird, but yeah, maybe one person. And yeah, didn't feel that you were participating in the story. You're just being monitored.
Great, thank you, Alvaro. And maybe one more person, if anyone would like to share what they think about some examples of great or poor leaders.
I was just trying to frame my like favorite leader, and when I was doing my master's, I was working for the Center of Teaching and Learning, and it was like 2020 in January. So I ended up helping switch the entire university online, and our LMS coordinator was just such a great leader because she would listen and lead based on what the community was saying. And I think that that's one of those ways that she was really excellent in sharing that power, was listening and then figuring out how to help support us and support the stakeholders in terms of that. And really like acting more as a tour guide than a director, right? Like she helped guide us where we needed to go based on our overall goals in a time where there was a lot of challenges. Um, one of my biggest, like when I reflect on some challenging leaders, is just not listening, but also not communicating effectively. Like the biggest piece is that communication, because you can't even move past to the flexibility and cooperation after it. But I think that the most important thing for me in any effective leader is just the communication piece and having that open flow.
Great, thank you, Lauren. So I use this exercise to invite you to think about how personally, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a leader? So I'm going to be putting you into breakout groups shortly to discuss that question, but I felt like it's a little bit easier, actually it's a lot easier to look at somebody else, right? Say, okay, these are the weaknesses of this person, and these are the strengths. Just like in couples, just like in romantic relationships, it's always easier to analyze the other person than to analyze ourselves, right? So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on what you think of other people. Now in the breakout rooms, you can look at yourself and be as vulnerable and as truthful with yourself as you can be in a setting with some strangers. So that's going to be a bit hard, but I hope you get something out of this. Okay, any questions before we jump into this breakout room? It'll be about 15 minutes, 15 or 17 minutes long. Okay, so that I'm putting into groups of 4, so roughly 3 or 4 minutes per person. Okay, here we go. All right, thanks, Anissa. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. See you next time.
Yep, see you next time.
Just
All right, welcome back. I just popped into those meetings and I felt like, dang, I wish we were all gathered around a fire at some camp, and I wish, we could all be sitting chatting all night. I could learn so much from all of you. It's just really fascinating to hear about all the life experiences that you've had so far and all your insights into this question. So now I'd like for each of you to share what insights you gained from this past breakout session. What things struck you when you listened to your classmates?
I feel like Pip was briefly sharing with us that she was trying to learn to not take things personally and to be a little more objective with whatever situation that Pip, this is how I interpreted what you said, and I'm totally projecting it to my own meaning, but that she was trying to be more objective with the leadership situation, which made it easier for her not to take things personally. And what that triggered in me was when I have a sense of confidence, then I'm a better leader. So I need to not have that imposter syndrome. I need to understand that I know how to do this job. I'm prepared to do this job, and to have the confidence that it's not about me personally, but it's about this job that I'm there to do. And that really resonated with me. So thanks for sharing that. I also really like your marriage therapy advice about staying curious, Alvaro, because that applies to in all of our relationships, right? We take everything for granted, even in the group that we're trying to lead. And if we stay curious, we're going to invite sincere engagement, is what I think.
Right. So I have a question for Alvaro. How do you stay curious? Because there are times when we just want to ignore other people, right? We want to let our egos take reign. What do you do?
I think I just space, just give space, I think, and just shut up, to be honest, and not not grab the first thought that comes that I need to defend. It's like, okay, I need to do an effort to really try to listen, and of course sometimes that curiosity is not like, oh, I am really curious about what you have to say. It's just like, okay, I have to make an effort to stay curious. And it's not something that works all the time, of course, because yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Alvaro, what insights did you gain from this breakout?
I think that all of us are in a learning journey and try to be better people ultimately, and to what we define as better people, within being more effective in with whom we're working with, or being more compassionate if we feel that are being unfair with the people that we're relating with, but we're trying to figure it out. That I think in the stories that I hear, it feels like that's what I'm getting more, to be honest.
Thank you, Alvaro. And would anyone would like to share next?
Something that's coming to me as we're talking, and from the thing is how being a good leader is really, really hard. You know, I mean, I was talking about how my approach to leadership suited some people in my team, but not others. Others didn't like it at all. But just that, so I come back to the notion of doing your own inner work, knowing what you care about, working and getting in contact with your values and your passions, and coming from there, and the followers will come, which you don't necessarily have the luxury of doing fully if you're in a office environment, but doing that and doing that well, that brings in most people, is really, really hard.
Thanks
I
for the
think
insight, Helen.
for me, I think Pip also mentioned that if I got it correctly, like big picture, big change is not always the picture. You know, there can also be small changes and incremental changes, which can add value to the group. And Gigi also mentioned that if you're always overthinking and each and every word and weighing in, you're probably not listening to the other person or the community. I think so. These were the two takeaways for me.
I think leadership's about who you are, not what you do.
Can you expand on that, Helen? That's a provocative.
Yeah, look, it's similar to really what I said before, but it was just a one-liner came back into my mind because I haven't worked in leadership for 10 years. But it is about being yourself and being natural, and in doing that, you know, you're knowing and respecting your own processes, and you're able to know and respect that those same processes are helping in the people that you might be leading. So if you're able to acknowledge what other people are capable of doing and giving them, you know, range to be able to bring out their best, then you're doing something from for then. So, but that happens by being yourself, not by giving clear directions or micromanaging and telling people how to do it. And I think, if you set people an outcome that's required and allow them to find their own way to do it, it's much more of a leadership style than being than a management style that tells them what to do and how to do it and such like, which I find some people like to be told what to do, and you've got to adapt to giving them what they need to get their best out, which even if it goes against what your own beliefs are, that's what they need. And that's, to me, is being a good leader, is being able to tap into the differences in people that are in your team or in your networks in whatever way. So it's not about so much thinking, okay, now what are the 10 things I need to do to be a good leader? Because to me, it's about know who I am, how I fit into this job that we're doing, what I want to achieve from it, what I've got to give, what they've got to give. Is that expanded enough?
Yes, that's
That was
I
exactly.
haven't thought about leadership for a long time, but
Can I ask
I have done quite a few leadership development programs, and I was a change manager and an organisational development manager in public sector for quite a while before I retired 10 years ago.
Can I ask a question? Helen, did you say diminishment style? Were you comparing leadership style with diminishment style?
Oh, no, management style.
Management style.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
management is about getting the tasks done,
Right,
setting the
okay.
steps, versus leadership. Inspired.
Diminishment style was an interesting concept. I was thinking diminishment style. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of the leadership style. Anyway, all right.
No.
Okay.
Don't subscribe to that at all. Sorry, management style, Australian accent.
Right. Yeah. Would anyone else like to share? Avram or Lauren?
I'll just say, like, the realization I shared with Lauren and Helen as I was listening to them talk and, sharing great points about good leadership and what I've been hearing all this time. I'm coming in really to this session with the mindset of I want to learn how to be a collaborative, a cooperative individual. And just like thinking about some of these questions really helped me come to terms with the fact that being a bad leader at times is somewhat like really like appealing and attractive, like being a person who can control. And there's just like this desire in me to be the leader who like dictates exactly how everything is going. And I feel like that's, that can even be appealing to us when we look at the world and it feels like the world is falling apart and we just wish like we could tell people exactly how to do things. And it's hard to let go. And that's something I'm going to have to be working on as we do this, to kind of let that model go.
I like that. Thanks, Evan. That's a really striking image in my mind. Okay. Would anyone else like to share before I turn this over to Pip? All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Pip.
Thanks, Stephen. I might just add a bit on that before I move on. I think for me, there's a radical shift in this notion of leadership, because when I think about, say, not to make too huge a leap, I hope you'll follow me, but Indigenous peoples' concept of custodianship, that means working with the whole system. It's a very different model. It's to the superstar guru that gets paid 10 times the money you and me. I think the superstar guru has led us where we are now, and we know we need to do something differently. And we know that it's people power, and we, the people, have to make these changes. So I think this is no tinkering around the edges that we're doing. It's a fundamental and critically important. Our children will hold us accountable for what we do or do not do at this time. So that's one thing I wanted to add. I think the other thing that the prosocial model perhaps adds into the mix is the realization that, yes, there are individual interests. We all have them. We have our needs. We want security. We want to belong. We want to have our needs met. Groups that we're part of, we may have signed on to their vision and their goal. And so the group also has needs. And so this leadership thing, we do need, I find it quite a relief that I can be humble because I can't control it's an incredibly complex system. I as an individual can't control. I can show up, do my inner work, make my offering, have my strengths, get my weaknesses, rubbed off a bit and hopefully improved, but we're all moving together. So as leaders, as part of a group, we don't even have to be head of a group. We can be a leader as part of a group. I just see that we're moving forward together and as part of a much bigger system than we realize. So there's room for modesty and humility and compassion for our stuff-ups and inadequacies and all that good stuff. And I actually find that a bit of a relief when I'm trying to think about myself as a custodian leader. Yeah, so we've had a great session, and I'm just going to now change tack to talk about what's coming up next week. And then we'll do our debrief, and then we'll check out pretty much on time. So next week, it's going to be having prosocial conversations. And to some extent, this material can be found in other places, but it's very important to pull it into the prosocial space because, as someone mentioned when they were talking about qualities of good leaders, they are good communicators. So now we ask ourselves, what is a good communicator? Next week, we're going to look at, and practice as well, giving information. And that might sound obvious, but we do need to find a way to say what's going on for us. And then listening to the response. And I do mean openly and actively listening, which most of us are not terribly skilled at. And also structuring the conversation in a way that's likely to get the desired effect. So I do encourage you to look at the learn worlds between now and then, do any of the exercises. And we'll turn up for a fantastic sharing next week. I don't think there's any other preparation you need to do. As I said, if you're having trouble getting on to anything, just stay back for a minute at the end. We'll get you sorted, but I think it's all there. Enjoy preparing for next week. So that brings us to within 10 minutes of the end of our session. So I think it would be good maybe to just take a minute to reflect what you might take forward from this session into your coming week. Is there one little thing that you either might do differently internally or even perhaps behaviourally? So just having a bit of a think, and I think we've got time to have a sharing. It's a small group, so we're lucky we can get to know each other well. And I think the best way to do this is to share. So that's my question. Is there something that you would like to do differently this week, and maybe even be a tiny bit brave and go out on a limb and have a little dabble with something new? I'll hand it over to you.
maybe while people are thinking, looking for inspiration, I'm going to say that this week I'm going to try to be more curious. And even if it's not curiosity, I'm going to bite my tongue and just hold back that before I jump into that next thought. I'll try. I can't promise myself anything, but that's my goal for this week.
Thanks, Stephen. I might do one too, just while other people are having a bit of thinking time. Well, if my back's against the wall and I really can't think of anything skillful, I always remember that medical motto, do no harm. So that's a fallback for me. Anybody else?
I'm going to try to be more present when I'm speaking with the people that I'm working with. Instead of assuming I know what they're saying and why they're saying it before they've even opened their mouths. I mean, I often, you know how sometimes you ask people questions, but you kind of already know the answer they're going to give. Because it's easier to prepare yourself for the interaction if you've imagined what that answer might be. So I'm just going to kind of stop projecting to them what I think their response will be. And I'm going to practice listening and receiving what it is they have to say.
That's great preparation for next week, Gigi. You can tell us how it goes. Great. Anybody else?
For me, I think it's going to be, instead of looking around at the world or people in my life and seeing the things I don't like, and then, getting into my head and imagining how much better it would be if I was a real leader and I had things my way. Instead, I'll try to start paying attention for the people, the institutions that are either, aligned with me, and, seek them out, appreciate them, cherish that, and try to amplify that. Or, within the institutions or within the people, the specific actions or the specific values that they do manifest that I appreciate or I align with, looking for that, paying attention to that, learning from that, seeing if I can amplify that.
Wow, that's wonderful, Avi. I really get that. Yeah, just working with what is there and looking for the good. Yeah, I can relate to that. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think for me, it will be like working on small changes and not always be result oriented, and take it step by step.
That sounds good. Is there a small change you maybe have got in mind, Asha?
For now, for me, firstly, it would be to pause, reflect, slow down, be a better, receive things better, be an active listener.
Lovely. Great. Thank you. We might just hear if you would like to share from Lauren, Alvaro, or Helen.
I think one of the things that I think I just need to continue bringing myself back around to is my values at the heart of it, right? Like, I think one of my challenges is when there's the conflict between maybe the situations I encounter in part of my work with teams and groups, and how we might not share all the same values, but at the heart of it, there are shared similarities, and that might just be how I'm starting to look for shared control a little bit more to find that common ground.
They're very valuable to look for common ground. That sounds like a great approach to moving forward. Thank you. Alvaro or Helen?
I haven't really got anything except to, in my mind, go back to the notion of leadership. because I'm well and truly retired, I now hold spaces. I've got a little community I run, and I've been very involved in other communities over the last, for online communities that the last 5 years, and in person communities. So I kind of have my own style and what I want to do. But for the purpose of this course, it's bringing me back to the notion of leadership and such like. So I'm going to have to get my mind back into that to be doing this course.
Oh, yeah, by all means, Helen. And I also invite you to even value your current context and how you are in the current context, because I guess past is valuable and we've learnt a lot, but it's nothing like the present time. So I would value your community involvement right now, and yeah, think about it during the course if you'd like to do that. Would that seem like a good way forward?
I think one of the things is that I believe now and into the future, the development of community is going to be pivotal for people to survive. I think we're going to go from big picture down to the act locally and such like. So I'm wondering whether I get some inspiration. I'm not in a permanent location at the moment, so it's hard to set up community, but I would like to when I get into a permanent living situation. But I do think we need to, whether it's a local community gardening project or whether it's issue specific or something like that. That's what I'm hoping to get out of this course. I'm just not in a position at the moment to do something new, bring on a new project. But I'll
totally understand, Helen. Yeah. I understand that situation, but sometimes it's just a micro skill that you could do even when you're moving around. You're interacting with somebody you've never met before, never see again, but you practice a little something new. That's my invitation.
Okay.
Never miss a chance. And lastly, Alvaro?
I'm a little bit in the blank page crisis right now. Blank page, blank canvas. Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking was I need to go back and try that AI prompting of the initial course, but yeah, I'm blanking in
Absolutely fine. Understand, Alvaro. You've contributed a lot in the course, and thank you for that. It's been very rich. All right. Well, we have reached time, so we're going to sign off. If there have been any, technical or accessing Learn Worlds issues, please stay on for a minute, and otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, great. Yeah, great. Enjoy the AI. Enjoy the work for next week as well. Okay, well, I think we're saying that goodbye now, aren't we, Stephen? I think.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, well,
Goodbye, everyone.
bye, everyone. I'll
Have a
stay
good
on
week.
for a minute. See you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
I'll just mention before we go, I had a lot of trouble getting in today. When I had cut and pasted the link when I went through the materials and put it into my calendar. When I pressed on there, it asked for the passcode. So I went back to the emails that we had, and I see that, and Susan had sent something out this morning with the link. I tried doing that. I got the same thing. It asked for the passcode. So then I went to my phone and tried pressing on the link on my phone.